But yeah, you only have
Um,
like a short time with them, right? Like during any given week, and then the rest of the time you don't know what they're doing or like how they're thinking about life and all the other things that they're doing. So yeah, what kind of did you come up with some methods and things that kind of helped navigate that problem?
Absolutely. I think one of the most key important things that I would always make sure that when I was working with clients, no matter what standard, whether they're ranked, top 20 in the world, or it's a grandma that, a midweek lady or anyone, or you've got a 5-year-old on the tennis court, was trying to get them to have a base understanding, and that's very hard for a 5-year-old and very hard for pro player. But obviously, that's very extreme, both sides. But most general hacks, like all of us, it's important for us to really understand, for the client to understand that where they are right now with tennis, because that perception of where we think we are in tennis um, is often very different to where reality sits. And the progress can only be made. I always felt that progress could only be made when the client can really clearly see where they are and what they're doing, and have a clear relative understanding to what it is, so that they can see where they need to go to. And that would be like, as an example, um, well, should I say, before I say an example, it was also very important to make sure that that was something that the client initially understood, because it would help me create value in, or an aspect of understanding that that value is there, from because they clearly understand where they are. So in 6 months' time, when we work really hard together, they can see significant improvement in their own game. And if you, like, let's say, for example, took on someone like a player and their standard was here, but yet they had a perception of that they're here, right? And you didn't correct that and bring that back down to here. Let's say they're up here, and you work really hard to improve them, and they move to here, and you personally know that they've done really well, but then they have this epiphany and they realize that they're only here. They think they've gone backwards with you,
Mm.
and that was always a really important thing that I saw with many coaches that did such an amazing job, that I could see the progress that the player had made, but the player didn't believe it. The player thought that they went backwards, and like, we'd have discussion with the coaches and stuff, and like, just say, look, I think potentially the person that you work with didn't have a clear understanding of what their standard was. So yeah, one of the first things I always make sure was making sure the client is really aware of, and they need to understand where they're at. A lot of times you have, like, the junior kids playing their tournaments, and they're like, I lost to a kid I should have beaten, or didn't do well in the tournament. I lost first round, and I was supposed to beat that person. And you're like, yeah, what's the score? I was 6-1, 6-love to them, but I should have won, and you're like, so all of these things, like, you kind of like don't say anything, but you take it on board, and you're like, all right, well, we need to get this person to have an clear understanding for the sake of themselves, so they don't quit the sport and get frustrated, but also for the sake of your own reputation, and for them talking about you in a good manner and a professional manner, that they have a clear understanding where they are too, so that it protects you and it protects them, and that you're both sustainable in the sport and you can survive without both of you blowing each other up. So that was always a big important thing, um, that I would always make sure. So that could comprise in many different ways of trying to get that to happen and to occur. It could be anything from getting them to play a lot of tournaments at the start, getting them on video analysis, or getting them to play, heaps of matches, or getting them to play less matches, or there's so many different strategies that, I would employ, but it was very important that I needed to get them within the first, few weeks, to really have a clear understanding of what they're doing. Maybe they're getting the radar gun out on the serve. They thought the serve was like 200 Ks an hour. You get the radar gun out, and then turns out it's only 100 Ks an hour. And you're like, geez, I'm sorry, but to disappoint you, but like your serves at 100, and but then let's say, for example, you pull out the radar gun in 6 months' time again, or 4 months' time, and they're punching, 150K an hour serve. What's the first thing they're going to think? They're going to think, wow, we've made so much progress. But, these are the things that you're trying to not make things worse, but sometimes you got to go through the tough moments at the start, the realization moments before you can make the progress and actually make the changes.